Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to everyone. Hope your weekend's going well. Hope everybody got a little bit of shop time. This is the portion of the show where we kind of let all the notifications go out on YouTube when they decide to send them out. I mean, that's kind of hit and miss. So if you're watching this on replay, go ahead and scrub past this graphic that you see here now. Right now, I'm just waiting for the clock on the wall in the other room to go ahead and strike the top of the hour. And then when it does, I'll get back over into my streaming software and click the little button and say, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's doing well, which is kind of odd to say because I already said that when the graphic was up, but somehow it's better, now. What can I say? Uh, well, this morning, okay, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everybody yesterday for all your birthday wishes. I do appreciate it. It hit the big 6-0 yesterday, so now I qualify for a bunch of senior discounts. I've always been kind of a glass is half full kind of guy, so I figure every year from now on I qualify for one more senior discount, because every year some people have a 60 for the seniors, some have 61, some 62. So, hey, save when I can. Uh, and thank you for the happy birthday things. It's what can I say? 60 trips around the sun. I'm officially an old poop, so it works. I've got the porch, I've got the cane, I've got the rocking chair. Not quite ready to get another dog yet, but we'll see. So now I get to spend my time, yelling at kids to get off my lawn. But that'll work. So, I didn't have a video this morning because, as I alluded to in the promo this morning, real life got in the way this week. I had several things happen all at once, and I just could not sit down and get the video done, edited, then posted. So it will come out next week, and I'm going to try to do the level clipping, the more advanced level clipping. But if not, I'll I'll have something else. So I apologize for that. Uh, it was just a comedy of errors all week long, and I just could not get sat down to get the ding dong thing shot. So I appreciate I appreciate the birthday wishes. Thanks, folks. I really do. So let's see. We did have one question up here a little earlier, or two questions actually. Now I see, but I had a bunch of questions about the shop update. We are getting into springtime weather. My holdup has been the temperatures, and it is it's basically waiting for the plywood floor to completely dry. I I got pressure treated plywood floor, and if you know anything at all about pressure treated plywood, after they make the plywood, they basically soak the plywood in chemicals, and it comes out weighing about three times what it normally would weigh, and you have to let it dry out completely, otherwise nothing is going to stick to it. And when it does dry out, it shrinks. Now, people say that plywood is dimensionally stable, and it is for the most part, but over an 8 foot by 4 foot sheet, it will shrink about an eighth of an inch in length and about a 16th of an inch in width. So I'm letting it get all that stuff done, it should be about finished. So I've got to go back with some caulk and I've got to fill in some gaps and everything and seal the areas where the floor plate sits on the floor. And then I can start getting together with flooring and insulation. I am almost ready to pull the trigger on buying the insulation, and that has to be shipped here. And what I need is I need a day over 70 degrees. So we've had a couple, but we haven't had it consistently enough for me to get the stuff, get it here, and get to spraying. I'm hoping to have that done first or second week of April, and then things can start moving a little faster. I still haven't decided what I'm going to sheathe the walls with yet. It's going to depend on what's available and how expensive it is. And that may be an ongoing thing. I might end up doing a back wall and the side wall where the CNC router is going to go. I don't know. I just don't know. It's going to depend on expense. Right now, I know I don't have to tell you guys lumber is at a premium. It's gone from improbable past impossible into just absolutely ridiculous and no thanks. So it's going to have to come down. I mean, big time. But I can then also get my flooring down. And the adhesive needs a certain temperature range too. I'm going to go with a sheet vinyl out there. It's a product called G-Floor. It's made for garage floors. It's a gray sheet vinyl. It's got the little 3/4 inch diameter coins embossed in it for a non-skid surface, and that's what I'm going to go with. It looks to be a good product. So, and I am going to use adhesive to stick it down, so I don't, it's not slip sliding or what have you. So let's see. Another thing that oh yes, and I need to get the insulation up before I do anything on the floor because that polyurethane spray foam insulation sticks to everything. So rather than lay a floor and then have to try to mask it, I can just go ahead and spray it, and then any drops or anything I spray on the subfloor I can scrape. So, I will get on that. So it's things are going to start moving rather fast after I get the insulation done and then get the walls sheathed. And again, I'm still not 100% certain of what I'm going to do for the walls. I've got no pictures. I mean, it's an empty shed right now. Went out and got everything vacuumed. I'm doing a little bit of caulking, and that's about it. So nothing really to show. So that's the shop update for up to today, this point right here. Oh, it's only a matter of time. Oh, man. Here's hoping. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and get into some projects. Let's see, get down and find it here. Jack Matson. Say hello from North Dakota. Hello from Oregon. How do you filter out the air in the shop for your computer? Use an industrial type filter or special box. I watched just about all the Q&As over the winter at the gym. Wow. You're a braver man than I am, Jack. As it sits right now, I don't have any special filtration for the computer. That will be changing, though, when I get moved in to the new shop. I'm going to be relocating the computer, and I'm just going to cheat. I'm going to basically make a little enclosure I can drop over the computer that made out of furnace filters. I don't really have any kind of a special filtration system right now. It's more based on where you put things than how you filter. If you if you look at the pattern of how your CNC works and how it runs, if you watch where the bit throws chips, because of the direction of rotation, at least on mine, chips get thrown to the right rear of the machine bed or the front left of the machine bed. So if you have your computer or controllers or anything set off to the opposite side, you have far less chips and dust, etc., being thrown at your equipment. It's being thrown away from the equipment. Now, as is the case, usually me, just to be me, I'm putting it right back in the same location to where my computer is going to be right up there at the front left. So again, everything's going to be being thrown right at the control box and the computer. But that's where good dust collection comes in, and that's where it starts. A good dust boot, dust shoe, whichever you prefer to say, on your router or spindle with a good dust collection source. And I know some folks use a shop vac. That's what I've used. And I've burned through 2 shop vacs because they're not designed to be run that long, that continuous use. They're not made for that much of a duty cycle. You can get a shop vac for fairly cheap, but they're cheap for a reason, where they're not using bearings, they're using bushings in motor assemblies and things of that nature. The durability just isn't there. So I would recommend starting with good dust collection. If you have the room, get a dedicated dust collector. Now, I've never used one, but I know a lot of people who use the Harbor Freight, if you're in the US, who use the Harbor Freight dust collectors and just run a 4-inch pipe with the reducer down at the end to, if you need, to run down onto your dust shoe. But that's the first step. You're never going to get 100%. But dust collectors are there to catch dust. They're not going to get 100% of the chips. But the more you can get, the better you are. And you really won't need any special filtration for the computer if you do that. Not only that, but about once a month, I pop the sides off of that computer and take, a can of air and blow it out. So, but I do that in the house as well. And I mean, we've got central heat and air in here, so the air stays, filtered out. But you're never going to get 100%. And filtration may or may not be the answer. And like I say, I'm going to try an enclosure made out of furnace filters, which I can get down at the local big box store. So, it's just a matter of put it in layers, I don't know. I think I'm going to try the enclosure thing. I may not even bother. So, let's see. Yeah, we've got a few folks talking about the Harbor Freight dust collector, what have you. Yeah, that's the way to go generally, is set up your dust collection first. So, let's see. Trying to find the next question here. Okay. Big Mac says, "Hi Mark, regards from England, regards from the US. After watching a couple of your monogram videos, I wonder if you can do a short video on how you remove them from the spoil board. Thanks." Okay, when you say remove them from the spoil board, are you talking about, well, everybody has a different mounting technique, and sometimes you use 3 or 4 at the same time. Generally speaking, when I'm doing something like one of those monograms, I make my material make sure my material is slightly oversized. So if I can screw it down to the spoil board, I do. And then I will use tabs around the edges to hold the piece in that material, and then come back a little bit later on and cut it out after I've sanded and done what I can do with it still mounted to the table. If I'm using the tape and CA glue, I just I've got a putty knife. I've got one that's about 1.5 inches wide, and I've got another one that's about 4 inches wide. And I'll shove them under one edge and lift up and just gently pry it loose. If it's kind of chilly out, I'll take a heat gun, get one corner lifted, and kind of fan some warm air under there to loosen up that adhesive, and it pops right off. But generally speaking, if the piece is wider than, say, 10 inches, or wider in Y than about 10 inches, or wider in X than about 12 inches, I'll just make the material slightly larger and screw the material down, and then use tabs to hold it, and then cut those tabs and clean them up. I do plan on doing a lot more cutting videos when I get outside into the new shed. So a lot of that will start coming together, and you'll be able to see more what I mean. So I hope that answers that question. So let's see. John Rumley. Hi, Mark and everyone. Any thoughts or methods to paint stacked text? Yeah, John, I have not done a stacked text video, and up until last month, I said I had no plans to do one, simply because I found a great video on Vectric's YouTube channel, and I really didn't have anything to add to that. Well, I then got to looking at it myself a little bit better, and decided that, like you're talking about, there isn't really much of I draw the design, but now let's go carve it and let's finish it. So I am going to do a stacked text project probably next year, because I think this year is going to be full. I'm still going to try to do a guitar video this year, but I don't think that's going to happen either. Excuse me. As I mentioned last week, I was asked by Vectric to do a presentation at the Vectric User Group meeting in San Diego in September. And the presentation I'm going to do is still top secret, but I have to do my R&D on that. So any free time is going to be spent doing that. And right now I'm waiting on parts to get here so I can get out and start cutting that. But I will be doing a stacked text project probably next year, and I'm going to get into some finishing techniques, ways to pre-paint and pre-plan that will require the piece to stay on the table, but still be able to give you a good finish without a lot of trouble. So I hope that answers that. Sorry. Let's see. Mr. Craig says, Mark, did you ever use the laser add-on in Vectric? Is it any good? No, I have not. I've not used it. I don't have a laser. I really want to get one, but it's not in the cards right now. Every spare penny I have is going into the shed because prices for supplies are so crazy. And, I've still got a house. I've still got landscaping work I'm doing and what have you. But every penny I can save is going into the shed. I do plan on getting a laser, and I plan on buying the laser module for VCarve and Aspire. And when I do, I'm going to be diving hot and heavy into it, because let's face it, that hybrid CNC carved with laser highlighting is just flat out cool. And I want to do that. I think that is just amazing. It's like a form of voodoo to me. But the short answer is no, I don't have it yet. I do plan on getting it, but I got to get a laser first. So, let's see. Rob Lemke says, if you're putting your dust collection outside of the shop, you will need to have an opening to let air in. Yes, that is 100% the case. And I do plan on doing that. I'm going to be building a lean-to on the back of the shed, probably later this year or early next year. And that's where my dust collector and compressor are going to be housed. I've made provisions with the electrical. I've left room to where they can each have a dedicated circuit. And I just got to save my pennies and then get that lean-to built on the back. So, and yes, dust collection outside of the shop, it's not going to be an issue. It's not going to be an issue. So, Steve Perdue says, I finally upgraded from desktop to pro. Sweet. Let's see. Matt Burbach says, I have the Harbor Freight dust collector hooked to everything in my shop. Hook up a dust deputy with a 55-gallon drum and some heating pipe and go. A lot of people have done that. Now, let me ask you, Matt, do you still use the filter bag? Is that still necessary? I know I have a friend, Bob, my electrical Obi-Wan, who he has the Harbor Freight. He put a separator on it, a cyclone separator on it, and he still needs to use the filter bag to filter out the real fine dust. Are you still using that filter bag? So, let's see. And I'll wait for your answer on that. While we're doing that, Bill Stauffer wants to know about Aspire. And like a dummy, I don't have Aspire open. Or Aspire or VCarve, either one. So let me load up a file here and get something thrown out into the window here. This is called trying to pad. I'm just throwing something out here so that I don't have dead air. Okay, let me go back over to Bill's question. Okay, he says, under the component properties, I don't understand what the 5 icons are showing or depicting on the top line. So, with Aspire open, let's go ahead and leave my 3D view and 2D views tiled here. And I have my horse's head selected. What you're talking about is over here in the properties window, these 5 icons right here. These icons are the combine modes for the component. This is the same as right-clicking and going to combine mode here. If you look, I've got add selected right here in the top line. There's a check mark. But if I come up here and look, there's a mark up here in the radio knob. This is for add. That's for subtract. That's merge. That's merge low. And that's multiply. That's the exact same as the combine mode menu here. And I did a couple of videos on the combine modes. I've done add, subtract, and merge. I did a video on multiply. I have not yet done a video on low. I did mention it briefly, but I have not done a dedicated video on this. I would recommend hitting Michael Mazalik's YouTube channel. I don't know if he specifically has a project where he uses this combine mode. I know you're in the chat, Michael. If you can think of a project where you used the low combine mode, I'd be more than happy to link it in the description box of this video when we're finished. If you could just, put the title in the chat room, in the live chat over here, I'd appreciate it. But I have done a video on these 3 combine modes and a separate video on the multiply combine mode. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing up here. Again, Vectric Software is a Windows program, and in any Windows program, there are about a dozen ways to get to the same result. And that's another example of it. So, I hope that answers that question and makes that a little more clear. So, okay, Michael Mazalik says, yes, Mark, it's in the first lesson. Okay, perfect. I will go back as soon as we're finished here, and I will link that video in the description of this video as soon as we're finished live here. Let's see. Episode 1. Okay, terrific. Let's see. Get back down here. I hope that answers your question, Bill. Marley says, Mark, is a craftsman, 4.25 horsepower, good to start dust collection. Anything you can use to start dust collection is good. I mean, you really, I don't think you can really do enough. Well, I won't say that, but anything is better than nothing. Now, having said that, if it's going to cost you quite a bit of money to get that piped in, then you may want to think about just starting with the dedicated dust collector from scratch. Now, the Harbor Freight units are not expensive. I mean, they're pricier than a shop vac, but anything is better than nothing. And you only have to surface your spoil board once to know that is an absolute fact. And doing that is one of the reasons I don't like working with MDF. I believe MDF is one of the tools of the devil. That stuff, when you surface an MDF spoil board, it is the most invasive stuff you will ever come across. It's like brown flour, and it goes everywhere. You will find MDF dust in the oddest, most tucked out of the way places where you swore nothing could get in there. You'll find layers of MDF dust everywhere without dust collection. I'm here to tell you. So it's bad. So anything is better than nothing. And if you start, I started with an old 6 horsepower shop vac that I got in 1998, and I put it on in 2015, burnt it up, got another one, burnt it up, and I've been running without dust collection since last year, since early 2020, and I hate it. So anything and everything you can do is better than nothing, believe me. So let's see. Steve Perdue says, Becky did a stack text training video. Between you, me, and the fly on the wall, Steve, Becky, Todd, Dan, and a few others over at Vectric have done videos on everything I've done too. Everybody has their own way of learning. I tend to break it down for people who have never done it before. So I don't think you can do too many. So yeah, I'll do another video. So let's see here. Russell Faraday says, I'm doing a non-slip step in a yacht. Cool. Simple honeycomb. Lots of 10 millimeter lines. Cam does most of them separately. Stop, Z-lift, next line, stop, Z-lift, etc. No big deal, but a waste of time. Yeah, it's, I guess it depends on what you're doing and how you toolpath it, but I can see where that would be a waste of time. Now, having said that, I don't know which version of the software you're using, but in version it was either version 10 or 10.5. They did a lot of work behind the scenes in Vectric and got rid of a lot of that wasting time moving to an area, lifting up after it's done, plunging back in, and things like that. It's not perfect. I don't think any system is. But there's a lot less of it in the newer versions, I've noticed. So, oh, here's one. This is interesting. Robin Davis. Hello from New Zealand. Hello from the U.S. If you were given a free trolley dash in the hardware store, what's the first 3 items in the basket? For those who aren't familiar with the term trolley dash, here in the U.S., they sometimes call them a shopping spree, where you get a shopping cart or shopping trolley, and you get to go through for a certain amount of time, and anything you can get in that cart or trolley is yours. What would be the first 3 items? That is difficult. Okay, specifically in the hardware store. That's a tough one. I'd really have to sit and think about that because I don't have very many needs. I'm pretty blessed. I think it would be really rather boring stuff like a 6-foot level, a good laser on a tripod for, oh, come on, Mark, surveying my landscaping work. And I'm really pretty boring on that. Maybe a new chainsaw. Absolutely nothing to do with CNC, I know. Although a CNC chainsaw would be cool. Okay, never mind. That was a thanks for that question, Robin. You make me think. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Okay, Matt Burbach says yes for fine particles. He still uses the filter bag. And Tom Peterson throws in there are mods to eliminate the Harbor Freight bag and use an air filter instead. And that's one thing that Bob, my electrical guru, has done. He has added a filter, but he's finding that that filter clogs really quickly. And he just upgraded to a newer, bigger filter that is, I hesitate to say self-cleaning, but it's got the little baffles inside where you crank the little handle and it kicks out the dust and cleans itself. And he likes it better, but it still clogs up pretty regularly. And he still has to clean it instead, so, or clean it quite often. But we'll see. I'm just not sure which way I want to go yet. So that's why I'm asking all these questions. Chris Krakowski, I have a propane garage heater that hangs on the rafter. What should I do to be as safe as possible in the CNC setup in the garage while using that heat? Dust collection, then dust collection, and even more dust collection. Because you don't realize, I didn't realize how fine some of the dust can be until I put a halogen light in the old shop shed and I used it one time, because dust getting up close to that halogen work light would literally incinerate and smoke the closer it got to. It was kind of like watching something, a bug fly into a campfire. It would just get up close and then suddenly poof. And it stunk. It smelled of burning wood. And I'm like, seriously? It's igniting the dust in the air? So I can only imagine, propane heat. Personally, I'm going with electric heat, but I can understand a propane heater, and I'm sure you know about when it comes to finishing and everything, watch out for fumes. But, number one would be dust collection, followed by dust collection and dust collection. I mean, you can try to filter out, run separate standalone air filters. I know a lot of people with basement shops do exactly that. They have standalone air filters, the big Wen or Shop Fox or I think it's Jet, that have the big air filters that mount up in the ceiling to try to filter all that stuff out. But yeah, it starts with good dust collection. So let's see. Todd HCNC, he bought the Rockler 30 micron bag because the Harbor Freight bag let too much fine dust through. Yeah, that's what Bob was finding. He has a basement shop. And, Bob has asthma and various different allergies and what have you. But so air filtration is real important to him. A, to keep all the dust down in the basement and not throughout the house, and B, for his own reasons, for his own health. So I don't remember how many microns his filter was, but do know that they will clog and you'll need to clean them frequently. So, let's see. Oops. Uh-oh. Let's see. It looks like we were having some problems here. Me scooch down. Yes, Win Industrial makes a cartridge filter for the Harbor Freight dust collector. Okay. Now, Jim Hester says exhausting the Harbor Freight outside is the only way to be sure to not be circulating ultrafine dust in the shop. With having COPD, he has to be sure. Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm wanting to put the dust collector in a separate building, is to, do that, exactly that. And let's see, Steve Perdue says don't use PVC pipe on dust collection without grounding it. I do ground all of my dust collection. Just simply because it's not that I'm worried about an explosion or any of that other stuff. I don't know how realistic that is, but the buildup of static electricity in plastic pipe, I've witnessed that. I've seen it. I've seen it arc, and I'm paranoid about frying my control system, so I ground everything. So, wow. Don't know what's going on with that. Are we having a problem, Steve? Thank you for doing that. Okay. Yeah, Reload and Shoot says using a 2.5-inch cutter to cut the pocket out makes a huge amount of dust. Yes, sir, it does. Let's see. Okay, Romeo, I believe you said Heshe? Sorry, you told me and I forgot. What step over do you use for a finished toolpath with an 1/8-inch ball nose to get a smooth finish? You're never going to get a 100% ready for finish unless you're willing to spend a ton of time with a super, super tiny step over. I generally run about an 8% step over on every bit for a finishing toolpath. But then again, I use the nylon abrasive brushes in my drill and I sand the whole project. Starting with a 180 grit and going up to 240 grit. What you have is you have a round nose, and no matter how tiny that step over moves over, you've got such an infinitesimal part of that bit is actually making contact with the wood. When it steps over, you are going to be left with ridges. So unless you're willing to go with a 0.5% step over, which might make for an 80-hour machine time, you're going to have some sanding and some cleanup to do. You're not going to get a super, super, super smooth, not requiring any finish work at all, finish sanding all, unless you're ready to put in that kind of a machine time. It's going to leave a slight ridge there. So all I can say is be ready to do a little bit of cleanup sanding. And it doesn't take much. I maybe spend 20 minutes total sanding with various nylon abrasive brushes or sandpapers or Scotch-Brite, the radial sanding discs in a Dremel, the little 1-inch diameter ones. Maybe 20, 25 minutes at the maximum. But you're not going to get a perfectly ready for finish surface straight off the machine. You will have to do some sanding. So, let's see. Russell Faraday, chainsaws have been wielded by the KUKA robot arm. I don't know. Part of me loves that KUKA robot, and another part of me is scared to death by it. Let's see. RB Woodwork saying, with the unit outside, you have to think about pulling the heat out of your shop quickly. That is true. That is true. Let's see. Lewis Denton says, do you have a brand for the nylon brushes you are talking about? Yes, sir, I do. And I will put a link to that. Let's see. I'll put a link to them in the description box below when I get done live here. They will be affiliate links, full disclosure. But that can show you exactly what I'm using. I'll put them in the description. Let's see, Jeff Solenberg. Mark, I can't find a good video explaining exactly how to do a larger tool roughing pass in VCarve Pro. Can you direct me to one? I haven't done one specifically, but I can describe it for you fairly easily. Let me go back to a screen share here. And let me close this, and I'll get rid of that component. Come back over to the drawing tab, and let's say we're going to pocket that out. Close. Go over, do a pocket toolpath for this vector here. I want to cut to, let's say, a 1/4 inch. What are you doing? Let's say a 1/4 inch depth of cut. And right here is where you use the larger area clearance tools. Right now there's one listed, the 1/4 inch end mill. But let's say I want to use an 1/8 inch end mill to get a tighter radius in these corners here. I've already got a 1/4 inch end mill. I'll now select an 1/8 inch end mill, add that to the list. And I can add another end mill too if I want to cut out quite a bit of it real fast. I have 1 1/4 inch. I'll put that in place too. But now what I'll need to do is I want to arrange these so that the largest is the first one. And thankfully they're already there. The largest bit is the first bit in the list, then the medium, then the smallest. Strictly speaking, I don't need this 1/4 inch end mill, but just for giggles, we'll go ahead and add it. If I wanted to change the order, I would do so here, select the bit, and move it up or down the list. But what's going to happen when I calculate this toolpath is it's going to calculate me 3 separate toolpaths, one using the 1 1/4 bit, one using the 1/4 inch bit, and one using the 1/8 inch bit. And I'll come down here and calculate it, and we can see right here we have the 3 separate toolpaths. This one is going to hog out the most. Yes, that's the 1 1/4 end mill. Then that one using the 1/4 inch, then that one using the 1/8 inch. So there's not a lot to it. It's basically, let me double click one of them to go back in here, putting all of your tools in a row here. And if you should decide, for instance, I don't need the 1/4 inch end mill, I'll remove it, then calculate it, and it's removed the toolpath for that 1/4 inch end mill. So now my 1 1/4 end mill will come in and hog out the most material, get that done, and then I'll do the bit change, load the G code for the second one, and it'll clean up the edges. So there's not a lot really to show, there's not a lot really to describe, but I will be doing this on a couple of projects in the future, and I can do a little bit more of a practical demonstration showing the tool changes and everything else. I didn't realize this was going to be this long of a tool path. It's only at 27%. Holy cow, I might just go ahead and stop it. Yeah, I will, because I'm doing it in 2 passes. Here's a little added bonus. If you ever get into a tool path like this and you want to stop the simulation, just come down here to the bottom and that red X right there, click it, and it'll stop the simulation. Then you can reset and go back and start over if you wish. But that's the basics of it. If there was something else that you needed, go ahead and let me know, and I'll do what I can to answer you. So let's see. Raymond Dixon says, saw a video on a CNC laying down concrete building a house wall. It was really something to see. Yeah, if they ever get all of the bugs worked out of that, I mean, it's really going to be something. It's really going to be something. Could you imagine pouring a house in like one day? So, Jeff Solenberg, I didn't realize you could stack multiple bits into one path. Yeah, it used to be on the older versions, you had to click a check mark because you had a blank that was marked large area clearance tool. And you had to put a check mark there and you could add 1 bit. Well, they decided now you can put in several different bits. Now, for instance, if you have areas, if you're going to pocket around text, for example, and you might need 3 or 4 different bits, but just in a pocket, a simple pocket like I was doing, 1 or 2 will do it. John Thompson says, I missed his question. Let me kind of cruise back up here and see, can I find it? Let's see, John Thompson. Where are you, John Thompson? Let's see. Crew must have been way back up. There it is. Okay. Let's see. John Thompson says, if I design a project, say 12 by 9, and I want to size it up to, say, 17 by 12 and use the same text on it, do I have to redo the project or simply do the project size? Okay. A couple of questions first. When you say you want to size up the project, do you mean just the material or you want to size up the entire pattern? Because if you have an address sign that's 12 by 9, but now you want to size all the vectors up too, basically all you would need to do is select all of those vectors, go into set selected object size, enter your new size, and everything will be scaled up. Let me, if that's what you were talking about, let me go ahead back over here, and we'll go back into Aspire here, and then maximize my 2D view. Let me center that and set selected object size. Let's make this, just for giggles, 6.0. All right. And now I want to put a piece of text. That's just, come on, load up. I have so many fonts. I need to get rid of some of them. Big time. It takes a long time to load everything up. This is the problem when you start going, oh, that's a cool font. Oh, that's a cool font. Yeah, it's a cool font, all right. Let's see, and I go with M, just for giggles. Close. Place that in the center. Scale it up. Okay. Now I've got my design figured out, and it is 6 inches by 5 point whatever. Now if I want to scale that up to something larger, I've got a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of material. I can go into job setup and change that to 24 by 24 and click OK. I'm all set. Now I can take this, select everything, go into set job size, and let's make the width 20. Apply, and that scales everything up. So I don't have to redo anything. Okay, I hope that answers that question. And you can do that, with template files. You can use that to make template files. It just works. One of the easier modifications to make. So, okay. Let's see it. Okay, perfect, John. Perfect. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this right now. Yeah, we've been on for almost an hour. And I think I'm caught up. If I missed your question, I do apologize. If you can throw it to me next week. And I will get to that question, Robert, next week. I'll save it and write it down. But basically, real easy. Select, let me just go ahead and show you. Heck, here. We will bring that up, come over here to pocket around the M and leave it freestanding. Let me get everything centered up. All I would do would be select both and come over here, close that, I don't want that, and do a pocket. And let's say I want to get rid of that end mill, and let's add a 1/4 inch end mill. Select, and yeah, that's in the correct order. And calculate. And now I need to be sure I'm looking at these two, because I already had 2 toolpaths calculated. So pocket 2 is what I'm looking at. And we'll do the visible toolpath. And that will carve around the M, but leave everything inside that square. And however many steps it needed or passes it needed to get that complete. Okay, there it is. And I'll select this one, turn it black so you can see it. turn that black so you can see it. So that's how you would do that. Just select the two vectors and it pockets out everything in between. So hope that answers that question. I believe I did a video. I want to say it was part 2 of the Absolute Beginner series. There is a link in the description box below to the playlist of the Absolute Beginner series, Vectric for the Absolute Beginners. And I think that was, if not part 2, it was part 3. Because I think I did the profile toolpath in part 2. I may be wrong. So, okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this to an end. This afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm excited about this one too. Michael Mazalik is doing a video. Let's see, what did you name it? You named it Create a Gothic Frame Using Vectric Aspire. Now, something you probably don't, unless you've been following him for a while, something you probably don't know is Michael is an artist with more, believe me, more than just Aspire. And one of his specialties is stained glass for churches, cathedrals, etc., etc. It's just one of them. He is going to show today at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, how he makes a wooden Gothic frame. A real-world project. And I'm excited for this one because I love real work projects. And I've seen some of Michael's work in the past. So I hope you'll join me over there in Michael's premiere at, again, 2 Pacific this afternoon, 5 Eastern this afternoon. And hope to see you there. So if I missed your question, I do apologize, but I hope to I will have a video for you next week, one way or the other. And yes, Ray Dixon, there is a link to Michael's video in the description of this video. It's already down there. Like I said, the premiere starts at 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, and I'm real excited to see this one. So I'm kind of got tongue-tied and went off in several different directions, but that's my thing. I say the wrong word, and my train of thought leaves the station without me. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. I will see y'all next week. Thank you again for all the birthday wishes. Really appreciate you guys. They're the best viewers on YouTube, and you are the proof of that. So thank you once again. But for now, go out and do something cool. Go make some chips, and then see you on Michael's video at 2. Have a good one. Take care.